There was once a 25-year-old young man named Ethan. For as long as he could remember, he felt like life was moving forward without him. His friends were getting jobs. Some were starting businesses. Others were getting married, buying homes, and achieving their goals. Meanwhile, Ethan felt stuck. Every year, he promised himself that things would change. Every year, he worked hard. And every year, it seemed like he ended up in the same place. One rainy evening, Ethan sat alone in his small room staring at the ceiling. The room was silent except for the sound of raindrops hitting the window. He looked at his phone and saw another social media post celebrating someone's success. A familiar pain filled his chest. He whispered to himself, "Why not me?" Tears gathered in his eyes. Not because he was lazy. Not because he didn't care. But because he had tried. Again and again. And yet life kept saying no. That night, unable to sleep, Ethan went for a walk. The streets were empty. The rain had stopped, and the city lights reflected on the wet pavement. As he walked through a quiet park, he noticed an old man sitting alone on a bench. The man seemed peaceful, as if he carried no worries at all. For some reason, Ethan sat beside him. After a few moments, he asked, "Can I ask you something?" The old man smiled. "Of course." Ethan looked down and said, "What if you're trying your best and still failing?" The old man remained silent for a moment. Then he pointed toward a nearby sculpture. It showed a man pushing a giant stone uphill. "Do you see that statue?" he asked. Ethan nodded. The old man continued, "Most people think success changes you. But they're wrong." Ethan looked confused. The old man smiled gently. "Success doesn't build character. The struggle does." He paused before continuing. "Tell me, if everything had worked perfectly for you, would you be as patient as you are today?" Ethan shook his head. "No." "Would you be as understanding of other people's pain?" "No." "Would you appreciate success as deeply?" Again, Ethan shook his head. The old man looked into his eyes and said something Ethan would never forget. "The reason you feel like you're failing is because you're only measuring what you've gained. You never stop to see what you've become." Those words hit Ethan harder than any failure ever had. For years, he had been looking at the things he didn't have. But he had never looked at the person he was becoming. The setbacks had made him stronger. The disappointments had made him wiser. The loneliness had taught him resilience. The failures had taught him lessons success never could. For the first time, Ethan realized something. Life wasn't punishing him. Life was preparing him. The old man stood up and smiled. "One day, all of this will make sense. But until then, keep going." Years later, Ethan would remember that night. Not because all his problems disappeared, but because it was the night he stopped seeing himself as a failure and started seeing himself as a work in progress. So if you feel like you're failing right now, remember this. Maybe the truth nobody tells you is that failure isn't always the opposite of success. Sometimes, failure is the path to becoming the person capable of handling success. Don't give up. You may be much closer than you think.